Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Imagine a vast hall. Ceilings painted in gold and frescoes. Mirrors from floor to ceiling. Crystal chandeliers with thousands of candles. Silk, velvet, lace, jewels glittering in firelight. This is Versailles, 1682, the most luxurious palace in Europe, residence of the Sun King Louis XIV, symbol of absolute power and unrivaled magnificence. Now breathe deeper. Feel the smell of unwashed bodies hidden under layers of heavy perfume, sweat soaked into brocade and velvet, urine from chamber pots whose contents servants pour directly into corridors, rotting teeth behind rouged cheeks, waste accumulating in corners of Europe's most magnificent halls. Look at the lady in the corner. Her dress costs a small town's fortune, hair arranged 1/2 meter high, face whitened with lead paint. On her shoulder, a small stuffed ermine, a beautiful accessory. No, a flea trap. The fur should distract fleas from the owner's body onto itself. Look at the king, Louis XIV, Europe's most powerful monarch. He changes shirts 3 times daily, a sign of unprecedented cleanliness. Shirts of finest linen, snow white, perfectly ironed. It's believed linen absorbs all dirt from the body by itself. If the collar is white, the body is clean inside. In his entire life, 77 years on the throne, Louis XIV took only a few baths, perhaps 3, perhaps 5. His doctors were categorically against water. Water opens pores. Through open pores, disease penetrates the body, miasmas, infection, death. This is not savages' ignorance. This is the pinnacle of European civilization, the Renaissance flowing into the Enlightenment, the age of Descartes, Pascal, Newton, the age of science, art, philosophy, and the age when the continent's most educated people panicked at water. But it wasn't always this way. 3,000 years ago, on the Nile's banks, priests shaved completely every 3 days. They considered every body hair a sign of impurity, an insult to gods. 1,000 years ago, fierce Vikings terrorizing Europe went to bathhouses every Saturday. English monks wrote with horror that these pagans seduced respectable Christian wives by regularly washing and combing their beards. 800 years ago in Baghdad and Cordoba stood marble baths with hot and cold water, steam and massage, where people washed with fragrant soap invented by Islamic scientists. Meanwhile in Paris, the King of France washed once yearly, and this was considered sufficient. How did this happen? How did humanity forget what it knew? How did water transform from life's source into death's source? And how, centuries later, did we learn to wash again? Tonight we embark on a journey, not just through time and space, but through human logic, through fears and hopes, through science and superstition, through splendor and misery. We'll start with shock, Versailles, where magnificence and filth coexisted. Then we'll return 3,000 years to see from where we fell. We'll trace the path from Egyptian fanatic cleanliness to European panicked fear of water. We'll understand causes, see consequences. Then we'll dive into myths, not invented stories, but legends millions genuinely believed. Myths about magical water that could heal or kill. Myths about dirt as protection. Myths that shaped reality more powerfully than any facts. Finally, we'll try understanding the pattern. Why do civilizations forget? Why doesn't knowledge accumulate linearly but move in spirals? Why must each generation relearn what previous ones already knew? This isn't a story of stupidity. It's a story of survival, of how people tried understanding the world with whatever tools they had. and how one century's trauma became the next century's logic. Welcome to Midnight Sleep Chronicles. We begin a journey spanning 3,000 years. Let's begin. Act 1. Reality, the golden age of cleanliness and the fall into darkness. So, from where did we fall? Let's begin our investigation with ancient Egypt, home to fanatics of sterility. Rewind 3,000 years to the Nile's banks, to a land where the sun burns so hot that stones heat painfully, where air trembles from heat, where every water drop is God's gift, where life and death are separated by a thin border between the Nile and desert. Egypt, a civilization lasting 3,000 years, longer than Christianity has existed, a civilization that built pyramids still standing today, that deciphered star movements, created writing, medicine, mathematics, and a civilization obsessed with cleanliness. Imagine a Thebes temple. Dawn. First sun rays touch golden obelisk tops. In the temple courtyard stands a stone basin with Nile water. A priest approaches. He is naked, completely, not a hair on his body, head shaved, bald, eyebrows shaved, even eyelashes, skin smooth as an infant's. This isn't aesthetic choice. This is religious necessity. The priest enters water, slowly submerges. Water is cold, despite heat coming in an hour. He performs ritual ablution, washes away everything that could have defiled him during night. Sweat, dust, dead skin, any tiny impurity particle. He emerges from water. An attendant hands him natron, a mixture of natural soda and fat. This isn't soap in our understanding. It doesn't lather, but it works differently. Alkali in natron literally dissolves skin's top layer with all dirt. The priest rubs natron over his body, rinses. Skin afterward is red, almost raw but perfectly clean. Now aromatic oils, a mixture of frankincense, myrrh, cedar oil. They moisturize skin, protect from sun. But most importantly, they make the body fragrant. Gods cannot tolerate bad smells. This is the morning ritual. It repeats in the evening, and in 3 days, the priest will again take a bronze razor and shave every hair that managed to grow back. Why such obsession? Egyptians believed dirt isn't just unpleasant. Dirt is a gateway for disease, for evil spirits, for death. In hot climate, this made practical sense. Body hair, home for lice. Dirt on skin, breeding ground for infections. An unwashed body in Egyptian heat begins smelling within hours. But for Egyptians, it was deeper than practicality. It was cosmology. Cleanliness is order, mat, divine harmony. Dirt is isfet, chaos. By maintaining bodily cleanliness, a person maintained universe order. Priests were this extreme manifestation. But even common Egyptians, even poor ones, strove for cleanliness. The wealthy had baths in homes, stone or copper vessels. After work, before meals, before sleep, ablutions were life's part. The poor went to the Nile, washed in the sacred river, or wiped themselves with water from a jug. Used simplest cleansing means, sand, ash, alkaline plants, and everyone who could afford it removed body hair. Men and women. The wealthy used bronze razors or even golden tweezers. The poor, flint shards sharp enough to shave hair. Or sugar paste, a mixture of sugar, water, and lemon juice, heated to thickness. Prototype of modern sugaring. Wigs were not luxury, but necessity. Egyptians shaved heads because hair attracted lice and parasites, but social norms required covering the head. Wigs solved both problems. Easy to clean, take out to sun, treat with oils having insecticidal properties. Unlike living hair, a wig could be kept in perfect cleanliness. Cosmetics were also part of hygiene. Famous black lines around eyes, kohl, were made not only for beauty. Coal's composition included galena, lead ore, and antimony. In small doses, these substances had antibacterial properties, protected eyes from infections carried by ubiquitous flies, protected from blinding sun, working like primitive sunglasses, dark line around eyes' reduced glare. Egyptians cleaned teeth, the world's first. Toothpaste, their invention. Recipe preserved in papyri. Ground salt for abrasiveness. Pepper for disinfection. Mint for fresh breath. Dried iris flowers for pleasant smell. Mixture rubbed over teeth with finger or using chewed reed stick end as brush. For fresh breath, they chewed balls of honey mixed with myrrh, cinnamon, and frankincense. The world's first breath mints. Bad breath was considered extremely indecent. Showed something inside the body was rotting. And inside the body, Egyptians believed much could indeed rot. They believed food residues not expelled in time began decomposing in intestines, released poisons, contaminated blood, caused diseases, hence obsession with intestinal cleansing. Enemas were regular procedure, not during illness, preventatively, once weekly or bi-weekly. Wealthy Egyptians kept personal doctors specializing precisely in this. Even Pharaoh had a special position, shepherd of the anus, Iri. Sounds comical to modern ears. But in Egypt, this was a prestigious post. Pharaoh's personal physician responsible for his internal cleanliness. On feast, nobility used aromatic cones. On the head, over the wig, they wore cones of wax mixed with perfumes, myrrh, frankincense, lotus oil. Cone was fist-sized. When feast began, many lamps were lit in the hall. It grew hot. Wax began melting. Perfumes slowly dripped over wig, over shoulders, soaking clothing. A round person formed a cloud of aroma. This was beautiful. This was pleasant. But this was also a statement. I am so clean, I can afford additional aromas. In a society where unwashed body quickly began smelling, artificial aroma was a sign of constant self-care. Egyptian medicine linked almost all diseases with impurity. Fever, dirt penetrated through pores, skin rash, insufficient cleansing, headache, toxins in intestines. Treatment almost always began with cleansing. Bath, enema, emetic, clean body outside and inside. Only then, herbs, spells, amulets. This may seem primitive, but logic was iron. Disease comes from outside. Dirt is disease carrier. Remove dirt, remove disease. Primitive germ theory, 2,500 years before Pasteur. And it worked, not always, not against all diseases, but often enough to strengthen faith. Egyptians living in cleanliness indeed got sick less than their neighbors, lived longer. Egyptian medicine was best in ancient world. Doctors from Egypt were invited to Persian kings, to Greek tyrants. When an Egyptian died, his body underwent final purification. Mummification wasn't just preserving body for afterlife, it was ritual cleansing brought to absolute. Body washed in Nile water, then opened. Internal organs removed. Source of decay. Brain extracted through nose with special hook. Cavities washed with palm wine and aromatics, then filled with natron. Natron drew out all moisture from tissues. For 70 days, body lay in natron, completely dried. Then washed again, rubbed with oils, wrapped in linen bandages soaked in resin. Between layers, they placed amulets, mask placed on face. Result was mummy, body cleansed of everything mortal, ready for eternity. Egyptian civilization lasted 3,000 years. During this time, much changed, but obsession with cleanliness remained constant. When Romans conquered Egypt, they were amazed. Romans themselves were a clean nation, but Egyptians surpassed them. A Roman historian wrote, "Egyptians wash twice daily and twice nightly. They believe body cleanliness leads to soul cleanliness." Egypt was an unattainable standard. Against its background, entire rest of ancient world looked dirty. But Egypt's time passed, civilization faded, knowledge scattered, and Europe, inheriting much from antiquity, didn't inherit Egyptian obsession with cleanliness. This was the first fall, but not the last. Now let's move 2,500 years forward and 3,000 kilometers north. From Egypt's sun-scorched sands to Scandinavia's cold fjords, to meet the warriors of Saturday washing, move 2,500 years forward and 3,000 kilometers north. From Egypt's sun-scorched sands to Scandinavia's cold fjords. 9th century AD Viking Age. Europe trembles before these northern warriors. They arrive in longships with dragon heads on prows, raid monasteries, burn cities, take captives. Prayer sounds in every church in Britain and France. From the fury of the Northmen, deliver us, O Lord. Vikings in European imagination are barbarians, pagans, savages, people without culture, without morality, without humanity, killers and robbers. But there's one detail that doesn't fit this image, a detail so strange that English monks recording Chronicles mention it with bewilderment and even indignation. Vikings wash regularly, on schedule, and this creates for them a reputation as seducers. Monk John of Wallingford from Winchester writes in the 11th century, "The Danes, thanks to their habit of combing hair every day, bathing every Saturday, and regularly changing clothes, are able to undermine married women's virtue and even seduce nobility's daughters." Read that again. Combing hair, washing once weekly, changing clothes. This makes a man irresistible, a dangerous seducer, a threat to Christian families. What does this say about Anglo-Saxons themselves? That English men of 9th through 11th centuries didn't comb hair daily, didn't wash weekly, didn't change clothes regularly. Against background of dirty, unwashed, overgrown Christians, Vikings looked like Hollywood stars. Clean, groomed, fragrant. Saturday in Old Norse was called Lagardagur, washing day. This wasn't just a name. It was a sacred day. The day Vikings went washing. Washing was a communal event. Family, community gathered at bathhouse or hot spring. Scandinavia is rich in geothermal springs. Water heated by Earth's internal heat gushes from underground, steaming in cold air. Temperature reaches 40 to 50 degrees, perfect for washing. If no spring nearby, they built bathhouse, small wooden building. Inside, a stove piled with stones. They lit fire, heated stones red hot. Then extinguished fire, poured water on stones. Dense steam rose, bathhouse filled with hot, humid air. Vikings entered inside, sat on benches, sweated, whipped themselves with birch brooms, intensifying blood circulation. Sweat washed away week's dirt. Then they went out and plunged into cold fjord or river water. Temperature contrast was shocking, but it hardened, invigorated. They used soap, not Egyptian natron, but real soap. Soap boiled themselves from animal fat and alkali obtained from ash. Process was simple. Melt fat, mix with alkaline solution, boil stirring. Mixture thickened, cooled. Result was soap bars. Rough, unscented, but effective. Vikings knew alkali not only cleans but kills parasites. Soap with high alkali content was aggressive. It dried skin, but also eradicated lice, fleas, ticks. After winter spent in cramped longhouses where entire families slept under one roof with livestock, spring washing with alkaline soap was vital necessity. Moreover, Vikings used this soap for hair bleaching. Men and women. Dark-haired Scandinavians by nature wanted to be blonde. Light hair was considered beautiful, divine. Associated with gods, Thor and Freya described as light-haired. Alkaline soap applied to damp hair, left in sun. Repeated procedure again and again. Hair bleached to platinum blonde. Side effect: alkali killed lice eggs in hair. Beauty and hygiene coincided. Combing was daily ritual, especially for bearded men. Beard for Viking was symbol of masculinity, status. Overgrown, tangled, sign of man who let himself go. Well-groomed beard, braided, decorated with beads or rings, showed man respected himself. Combs found in every Viking burial. Bone, wooden, sometimes metal. Carved, decorated. Comb was personal item, important as weapon. Man without comb was like warrior without sword. Combing was meditation. Sitting by hearth, slowly running comb through beard, through hair, untangling knots, removing dust and dirt. This calmed. This was time to think. Plan tomorrow. Remember past. Ear spoons, another archaeological find. Small bone or bronze instruments, size of modern toothpick, with tiny spoon at end, for ear cleaning. Found constantly. Sometimes on chain together with comb and small knife. Personal hygiene set Viking war on belt. Ear cleaning may seem trivial, but Vikings lived in world without excess sounds. Hearing was critically important. In hunting, in battle, at sea, wax-clogged ears reduced hearing, could cost life. Therefore, ear cleaning was regular practice. Clothes changed more often than European neighbors. Undergarments, linen shirt and pants, washed weekly, in same Saturday ritual. While body washed in bath, women laundered linens, boiled in large vats with ash, working as detergent, rinsed in cold river water, hung to dry. Outer clothing, wool tunics, cloaks, not washed as often. Wool spoiled from frequent washing, but regularly shaken out, aired, cleaned with brushes, stored with aromatic herbs, lavender, thyme, repelling moths. Vikings on campaigns couldn't wash as regularly. Months at sea, sleeping on Drakkar deck without possibility to light bathhouse. But even on campaign, they washed at every opportunity. Landing ashore, first sought fresh water, not only to replenish supplies, but to wash. Arab diplomat Ahmad ibn Fadlan, meeting Vikings on Volga in 922, describes this in notes. He's shocked, but for different reason. Vikings washed, but did it incorrectly, in his opinion. Each morning, slave brought large basin of water. Master washes face and hands in it, combs hair directly over basin, blows nose and spits in water, then passes basin to next. That one does same. One basin for whole company. Ibn Fadlan is outraged. They are the filthiest of Allah's creatures. But he misses main point. Vikings wash every morning, every day, on campaign, far from home. Yes, hygienic standards differ from Islamic, but they exist. They're regular. They're obligatory. Contrast with Christian Europe is striking. While Vikings built baths and washed weekly, Christian monks proclaimed unwashedness a sign of holiness. Holy Fathers wrote that dirt on body is flesh's humility. That too frequent washing speaks of vanity. That true Christian should care for soul, not mortal body. Monastic rules limited washing. Twice yearly, at Christmas and Easter. No more needed. Excessive body cleanliness, path to sin. For clean body awakens lust. Dirt tames flesh. Against this background, Vikings seemed obsessed with cleanliness, and they were. By standards of time, they were hygiene fanatics. Why? Practical reasons, obvious. In cold climate dirt, on skin less dangerous than in Egyptian heat. But parasites, huge problem. Lice, fleas carry diseases, typhus, plague. In cramped dwellings where whole families sleeps together, epidemic can wipe out everyone in a week. Regular washing and alkaline soap use reduced risk, but there were also cultural reasons. Vikings valued beauty, male and female, well-groomed body, beautiful clothing, jewelry. This was important, not from vanity, but from self-respect. Aesthetics was part of honor. Being dirty, overgrown, unwashed meant degrading, losing community respect. Sagas describe insults related to dirt. Calling man dirty was grave insult, could lead to duel. Vikings believed external appearance reflects internal state. Well-groomed person, person with self-control. Dirty person, lost control over life. In harsh world where survival depended on discipline and will, external appearance was marker of these qualities. When Vikings settled in conquered lands, in Normandy, in England, in Rus, they brought their habits, built baths, continued washing. Sometimes their customs took root in local culture. Russian word subota, Saturday, derives from Scandinavian laugardagur through Finnish borrowing. Russian baths, direct descendant of Scandinavian ones. But in Western Europe, Vikings assimilated, adopted Christianity, gradually adopted local customs and local attitude toward cleanliness. By 12th to 13th century, Viking descendants in Normandy washed no more often than local French, that is, rarely. Scandinavian hygiene's golden age ended. Knowledge didn't disappear completely. Baths remained in Scandinavia, in Russia, but Western Europe moved in another direction, a direction leading not toward cleanliness, but away from it. While Vikings built bathhouses in Scandinavia, and Christian Europe's monks proclaimed dirt a virtue, a miracle was occurring in the East. The birth of the science of soap, 9th century. While Vikings in Scandinavia build baths, and Christian Europe's monks proclaim dirt virtue, a miracle occurs in East. Civilizations flowering that will surpass all in science, art, and, yes, hygiene. Islamic Golden Age, from Cordoba in Spain to Samarkand in Central Asia, from Baghdad to Cairo. Vast territory united not only by religion, but by thirst for knowledge. House of Wisdom in Baghdad, where Greek, Persian, Indian works are translated, where astronomers compile star maps, where mathematicians invent algebra, where physicians write medical treatises that will be used in Europe for 5 more centuries, and where revolution in hygiene occurs. Quiet revolution, soap revolution, Baghdad, 9th century, Abbasid Caliphate capital, world's largest city, 1 million inhabitants. For comparison, Paris at that time, 50,000, London, 20,000, Baghdad 50 times larger, city on Tigris banks, circular city, built to plan, concentric walls, caliph's palace in center, markets, mosques, libraries, and everywhere, hammams, public baths. Hammam isn't just place to wash, it's social institution, meeting place, socializing, business negotiations, place where hours are spent unhurriedly, where washing is art, not necessity. Let's enter hammam. Imagine, entrance from street, cool room, changing area, remove clothing, put on wooden sandals. Attendant gives peshtimal, thin cotton towel wrapped around hips. First room, warm, temperature comfortable, air humid. Here you adapt. Sit on marble bench. Skin begins opening pores. Light sweat appears. Nearby other visitors. Conversation, laughter, relaxed atmosphere. Second room, hot. Here real heat. Steam rises from hot pipes under floor. Hypocaust, underfloor heating system inherited from Romans but improved. Water heats in boilers, steam supplied through channels. Temperature reaches 40 to 50 degrees. Humidity high. Hard to breathe first minutes. Then you adapt. Here you sit, sweat. Dirt exits from pores. Dead skin softens. After 10 to 15 minutes, attendant approaches, lays you on hot marble table, navel stone, Göbektaşı, puts on hand rough mit, käse, coarse abrasive fabric, begins rubbing your skin, strongly, almost painfully, but it works. Dead skin rolls into grey balls. Week's dirt embedded in pores comes out. After 5 minutes of such massage, you feel as if old skin removed, and in some sense it has. Attendant pours warm water from copper basin over you, rinses dirt away, then takes soap, not Egyptian natron, not Vikings alkaline liquid, real solid soap, fragrant, soft. Soap we'd recognize today. This was Islamic world's invention, or rather, improvement. Soap was made before, but it was liquid, inconvenient, rough. Islamic masters, legend says first were Syrians from Aleppo, learned making it solid. Secret was in oil and alkali ratio. Used olive oil, sometimes laurel, mixed with alkali from certain desert plant ash. Boiled on slow fire, constantly stirring. At end added salt. Salt made soap hard. Mixture poured onto flat surface, cut into pieces, dried for months, sometimes years. Old soap valued higher, softer, lathered better. Aleppo soap, made with added laurel oil, considered best. Exported by caravans to Egypt, Persia, even Europe. Crusaders returning home told of miraculous soap that lathers effortlessly and smells of forest. But soap was only part of procedure. After attendant soaped you, he gave massage, kneaded muscles, cracked joints. People came to hammam not only to wash but remove fatigue, back pain, tension, then rinsed with cold water. Hot and cold water contrast invigorated. Closed pores, final room, cool. Here rest after procedures. Drink mint tea or cold sherbet. Lie on couches. Sometimes fall asleep. Time in hammam flows slowly. Can spend 3 to 4 hours here. Hammams were everywhere. In each Baghdad district. Dozens. For men and for women. Sometimes separate buildings. Sometimes one building but different times. Morning women. Evening men. 4. Women hammam was especially important. Home closed from men's eyes, where could remove veil, talk, gossip. Here marriages arranged. Mothers brought daughters, looked at girls from other families, evaluated them as potential daughters-in-law. Beauty, skin cleanliness, figure, all evaluated in hammam. Visiting hammam wasn't luxury, but obligation. Islam requires ritual cleanliness. Before prayer, minor ablution, wudu, hands, face, feet. After certain events, major ablution, ghusl, entire body. But besides religious prescriptions, social code existed. Cleanliness code, unwritten but strict. Muslim scholar of 10th century Al-Muwashsha wrote treatise on adornment and beauty, entire chapter devoted to hygiene. He writes, body odor, sign of ignorance and lack of upbringing. Bad breath makes communication unbearable. Dirty clothes insult interlocutor. Provides specific recommendations. Wash fully minimum once weekly. Wash hands and face daily. Clean teeth twice daily with miswak, stick from arak tree whose fibers work as brush and juice has antiseptic properties. Prophet Muhammad himself used miswak, and this became sunnah, recommended action. Body hair also regulated. Men recommended to remove underarm and pubic hair. Not mandatory, but desirable. For cleanliness, to remove smell. For women, mandatory. Smooth skin valued. Special depilation pastes existed, similar to Egyptian sugaring. Ziryab, musician, poet, fashion trendsetter of 9th century, revolutionized Cordoba. He came from Baghdad to Muslim Spain and brought not only music, but self-care culture. Ziryab popularized deodorant use, pastes based on the lum applied to armpits, He taught that clothing should change seasonally, white in summer, dark in winter, that there's proper order for serving dishes at feast, soup, meat, dessert. That haircut should match face shape. May seem trivial, but this formed culture. Culture of attention to details. Culture where cleanliness and beauty weren't opposed to spirituality, but complemented it. Persian physician Al-Razi, Rhazes in Latin tradition, wrote medical encyclopedia describing soap recipes in detail. Different types for different purposes. Soap for sensitive skin, with almond oil. For oily skin, with clay. Medicinal soap, with sulfur, for skin diseases. Al-Razi first described that soap works through chemical reaction between fat and alkali. Not just empirical recipe, but process understanding. This was 1,000 years before European chemistry reached same understanding. Islamic civilization created soap industry. In Damascus, Aleppo, Tripoli, Fez soap factories operated. Soap maker guilds controlled quality. Standards existed. Soap with certain laurel oil content could be called Aleppo, only if made by traditional technology. Crusaders coming in 11th to 13th centuries were shocked. They were accustomed to simple life, rare washing, dirt as norm, and suddenly found themselves in a world where hammams on every corner, where people smell fragrant, where clothing clean, white, ironed. Crusader chronicler Fulcher of Chartres wrote, "Saracens keep their cities in such cleanliness that our warriors are ashamed of their camps' filth, their baths like palaces, while our warriors wash in rivers like cattle." Some crusaders adopted local customs, began visiting hammams, bought soap, wore clean clothes, returning to Europe, tried reproducing. But this was considered exotic, oriental luxury, not norm. Church looked askance. Hammams associated with Muslims. Excessive body cleanliness seemed suspicious. Doesn't it lead to lust, to vanity, to sin? Contrast between Christian and Islamic world on hygiene question was absolute. Where Islam demanded cleanliness as religious duty, Christianity preached flesh mortification. Dirt as humility. Two civilizations, two body philosophies. One saw cleanliness as closeness to God. Other saw dirt as path to salvation. Islamic civilization created technologies. Soap that can be stored and transported. Baths with engineering heating and water supply systems. Cultural cleanliness code. All this existed, worked, improved life. But Europe didn't adopt. Couldn't. Wouldn't. Why? To understand, we need returning to Europe and seeing what happened in 14th century. A catastrophe occurred, a catastrophe that changed everything. But how did we fall from this knowledge? It began with fear, the birth of fear that would change everything. 1347, Port of Messina, Sicily. October, Genoese trading galleys enter harbour. Arrived from Kaffa, Genoese colony in Crimea. Long journey through Black Sea, through Straits, through Mediterranean. Strange crew. Some sailors dead, lying on deck, blackened, covered in rotting sores, rest near death, delirious with fever, begging for help. Messina authorities in horror order ships to leave harbour. But too late. Rats from ships already fled to shore and brought passengers fleas, infected fleas. Within a week, people in Messina begin dying. First ones, then dozens, then hundreds per day. Symptoms terrify. Sudden fever, chills, headache. Then buboes appear on body. Huge painful swellings of lymph nodes. In groin, armpits, on neck. Size of egg, sometimes orange. Black or dark purple. Hence name, Black Death. In 3 to 5 days, death. Agonizing, there's no cure. Prayers don't help. Doctors helpless. Plague spreads with incredible speed, from Messina to Genoa, to Venice, to Florence, across Alps into France, to Spain, to England, to Germany, to Scandinavia, to Russia. In 5 years, from 1347 to 1352, plague mows down a third of Europe's population, perhaps half. No exact figures, but scale monstrous. Villages die out completely. Cities lose half inhabitants. In some places, 1 in 10 survives. No one to bury, and no one to do burying. Corpses piled in pits, covered with quicklime, or simply left rotting in streets. Society paralyzed by horror. People don't understand what's happening. Why is God sending such punishment? For what sins? Doctors try explaining. Put forward miasma theory. Disease carried by bad air. Air becomes bad from decay, from swamp vapors, from stench. Logic simple. Where it stinks, there's disease. Remove smell. Remove disease. Recommendations. Burn aromatic herbs. Carry flower bouquets to inhale their aroma instead of infected air. Hence famous noses of plague doctors. Masks with long beaks filled with fragrant herbs. Doctor breathes through beak, through aroma filter, and supposedly this protects. But there's another recommendation. Critical. One that will change culture for centuries. Avoid washing. Logic is this. Water opens skin pores. Through open pores, miasmas penetrate body more easily. Closed pores, barrier. Dirt on skin, additional barrier. Doctors recommend don't wash, don't go to baths, don't open pores. Protect. Body from infection penetration. And people listen. Because alternative is death. Public baths existing in Europe since Roman times begin closing. First temporarily, from infection fear, then permanently. Baths become suspicious places. There people gather together. They're warm and humid. Their miasmas concentrate. They're easier to catch infection. Moreover, baths have bad reputation. They often serve not only for washing, but for other services. Prostitution flourishes at baths. Church long condemned baths as sin places. Now moral arguments joined by medical ones. Edicts ban baths. In Paris, London, German cities, one by one baths close. By 14th century's end, almost none remain. People stop washing. Not completely, of course. Wash hands and face. But full body washing becomes rare. Once monthly, once every few months, once yearly. And they notice. Those who wash less don't get sick more often. Sometimes even less. Coincidence? Yes. Plague carried by fleas living on rats. Water has nothing to do with it. But 14th century people don't know about fleas, don't know about bacteria. See correlation. Baths closed, some stopped washing and survived. So it works. Survivors tell stories. I didn't wash throughout plague and survived, but neighbor washed and died. Stories multiply, become legends. Legends become truth. New knowledge forms, not scientific, empirical, based on fear and survival. Water is dangerous, open pores dangerous, washing dangerous. Plague retreats by 1353, but fear remains, and new knowledge remains. Generation surviving plague passes it to children. Don't wash often, protect pores. Dirt on skin is protection. Children accept as truth. Pass to their children. 100 years after plague, no one remembers why they started fearing water. But fear lives. Culture changes. What was norm, regular washing, bath visiting, becomes strange, suspicious, then deviant. By 15th century, Europe divides into two worlds. Common folk wash rarely, but sometimes, in rivers, in basins, when necessary. Not from love of cleanliness, but when dirt becomes unbearable. Nobility stops washing altogether, because nobility has alternative, better alternative. dry cleanliness. We return to where we began, to Versailles. But now we understand how this happened, how dry cleanliness triumphed. We return where we began, to Versailles. But now we understand how. 15th, 16th, 17th centuries, Renaissance, Raphael and Michelangelo, Da Vinci and Shakespeare, Copernicus and Galileo, arts and sciences flowering, and complete washing refusal. How is this compatible? Easily. Because Renaissance revived not everything. It revived antiquity's art, philosophy, science, but not hygiene. Moreover, developed own cleanliness philosophy. Philosophy not requiring water. This philosophy's foundation, linen. Linen. White linen shirt worn on naked body. Linen pants. This undergarment. Barrier between body and outer clothing. Theory states, linen absorbs sweat, absorbs dirt, absorbs poisons, body secrets, works as filter, as sponge, draws out everything bad from skin. If linen clean, body clean. Even if body not washed, linen cleanliness becomes person's cleanliness measure. Wealthy change linen daily, very wealthy, several times daily. Louis XIV changes shirts thrice daily. This demonstrates status. Poor man cannot afford several shirts. Rich man can have 100. Shirt changing becomes ritual. King's morning toilet, public ceremony. Courtiers gather. Chamberlain removes nightshirt, puts on day shirt. Those present see. Shirt snow white, so king is clean. Collar and cuffs especially important. They're visible from under outer clothing. White, starched, impeccable. This demonstrates cleanliness. If collar clean, person clean. Even if body under clothing hasn't been washed for months. Linen is laundered, regularly, in large vats, boiled with ash, or soap, rinsed, hung out, bleached in sun, ironed with hot irons. Laundry is hard work. Laundresses work all day, hands in hot water and alkali. Skin cracks, bleeds. But linen must be white. This requirement inexorable. Paradox. Enormous effort spent on linen cleanliness, and zero effort on body cleanliness beneath it. Body not washed, body wiped with dry cloth. In morning, after sleep, remove sweat and skin secretions with dry towel. This called dry washing. Considered sufficient. Considered correct. Doctors support. Write treatises. On frequent washing's harm. On dry cleanliness's benefit. Explain. Water weakens body, makes skin flabby, opens disease pathways. Famous Dr. Paracelsus, toxicology father, medicine reformer, asserts dirt on skin works as protective layer. Washing it away, dangerous. People believe. Because doctor is authority. Because this corresponds to water fear inherited from plague era. Because alternative, washing and risking, frightens. But unwashed body smells, especially in dense multi-layered clothing nobility wears. Velvet, silk, brocade, don't let air through. Under them body sweats. Sweat soaks fabric, begins festering. Smell grows strong. Solution, perfume. Perfumery experiences boom. France becomes center. Grasse, southern city, specializes in growing perfume flowers. Roses, jasmine, lavender, tuberose. Tons of petals processed into essences. Perfumes not subtle like today. They're heavy, dense, sweet to sickliness. Musk, ambergris, civet. Animal components with strong smell, mixed with floral essences. Result is mixture meant to mask unwashed body smell. They drench themselves, literally. Carry vials on belt. Apply to skin, clothing, wig several times daily. Air around aristocrat must be saturated with aroma. This shows status. Poor man smells of sweat. Rich man smells of amber and roses. But under perfume, you still smell body. Mixture becomes specific. Sweet, sickening stench, masked by equally sweet perfumes. Foreign ambassadors at Versailles write home. Court smell unbearable. Must breathe through perfumed handkerchief. But Versailles' inhabitants don't smell. Accustomed, smell adapts. What's normal for them shocks visitors. Fleas and lice. Ubiquitous problem, even among nobility, perhaps especially among nobility. Dense clothing, body warmth, washing absence. Ideal conditions. Lice live in hair, in wigs, in clothing folds. Fleas, in furs, in furniture, upholstery, in beds. Bite, irritate, spread diseases, but tolerated. No effective elimination method. Flea traps invented. Small boxes or hollow ornaments with holes. Inside put drop of honey or blood. Flea crawls inside, attracted by smell. Stuck on sticky surface. Periodically flea trap opened, captured fleas killed. Minimally effective but better than nothing. Another method. Shoulder furs. Ladies wore ermines, sables, martens, stuffed or live animals, on shoulder or waist. Theory. Fleas prefer fur. Will crawl from body to animal. Will it work? Doubtful, but fashionable. Combs for lice combing, mandatory toilet item. Close teeth running through hair or wig. Lice stuck between teeth, crushed with nails. Daily procedure. At court done not publicly, of course, but in seclusion. Or ladies' maids comb lice from ladies. Servants from masters. Wigs partially solve lice problem. 17th century wig fashion explodes. Men and women shave heads or cut very short. Wear wigs, huge, lush, curled. Why? Fashion, of course, but also practicality. Wig removable. Can treat for lice. Heat, freeze, comb out. Living hair harder to treat. Royal family sets example. Louis XIII began balding early. Wore wig. Louis XIV continued tradition, making wig mandatory at court. Wig, status symbol. Bigger, lusher, more expensive, higher position. Wigs powdered. White or grey powder. Flour, starch, sometimes with fragrances. Powder absorbs oil, gives volume, but also falls off. People walk in powder cloud. It settles on clothing, furniture, food. Sneeze from it, but tolerate. Fashion demands. Cosmetics also peak. Lead or mercury white paint applied thick. Beauty ideal. Deathly paleness. Tan. Peasant woman's sign. Working under sun. Aristocrat woman must be white as marble. White paint poisonous. Lead absorbs through skin. Accumulates in body. Causes poisoning. Skin spoils. Covered with sores, wrinkles. Women conceal defects with new white paint layers. Vicious circle. Rouge. Cinnabar. Mercury sulfide. Also poisonous. Paints cheeks, lips bright red. Sometimes paint veins on temples blue to emphasize aristocratic paleness. Visible blue veins. Beauty patches. Artificial moles of black silk or velvet. Stuck on face. Each patch position has meaning. By eye, coquetry. By mouth, passion. On cheek, agreement. Patch language ladies use to communicate across ballrooms. But patches also hide. Syphilis sores, pockmarks, pimples. Skin eaten by lead white paint. Teeth, separate catastrophe. Dentistry barely exists. Bad tooth removed. Often not by doctor but barber. With same tool that cuts beards. Without anesthesia. Grab with pliers, pull. Agonizing. Many prefer enduring pain to going for removal. By middle age, many nobles have almost no teeth. Gums rot. Breath smells foul. Try masking. Chew aromatic herbs. Suck sugar candies with spices. But effect weak. Toilets primitive. Even at Versailles, no plumbing or sewage. There are chamber pots. Porcelain for nobility. Copper or clay for servants. Servants carry out pot contents and pour wherever. Into special pits, if exist. Into street, out window, if pits don't exist. Versailles, Europe's most luxurious palace, doesn't have enough latrines. Thousands of courtiers, servants, Several primitive privies, lines. People don't wait. Go to secluded corner, behind column, in niche, in corridor corner. Relieve themselves there. Servants clean, but don't keep up. Smell unbearable. Louis XIV orders servants to wash corridors with vinegar weekly. Helps weekly. Courtiers carry perfumed handkerchiefs, hold to noses. King himself receives visitors sitting on chairpot, throne with built-in pot. This not considered indecent. King's physiological functions, part of court ritual. King's morning dressing, evening undressing, even pot use, all occurs in courtier's presence. Special honor, to hand king pot, or wipe him after. Women wear lush skirts, hiding small portable pots underneath. During long ceremonies, balls, when cannot leave, lady can inconspicuously squat and use pot right in hall. Skirts hide. This is Versailles' reality. Splendor and filth, luxury and stench. And baths exist. Copper, sometimes marble, but used extremely rarely, perhaps once yearly by medical indications. Doctor prescribes bath if disease requires. Otherwise, no need to risk. When bath finally taken, it's an event. Preparation takes hours. Servants heat water in kitchen pots, carry by buckets to bedroom, pour into tub. Water cools quickly. Washing process short. Dunk, rinse, get out. Then carefully dry, rub with towels to close pores. After bath, bed rest for day or two. Body weakened, vulnerable, cannot go into cold, cannot strain, lie, recover. Such attitude makes bath not hygienic procedure, but medical intervention, dangerous and rare. When Louis XIV asked how many times he washed in life, he struggled to answer. Perhaps 3 times, perhaps 7. Doesn't remember precisely. It was so rare that no clear memories remained. And this not exception. This is norm. For nobility, for kings, for Europe's wealthiest and most educated people. Common folk actually wash more often, not because cleaner, but because no choice. Work physically, sweat, dirt interferes. Go to river, plunge, quickly, without ceremonies. Not from cleanliness love, but from necessity. Peasants, soldiers, workers smell of sweat and dirt. But they at least have no cleanliness illusion. Nobility convinced white collars and tons of perfume make them clean. Cleaner than washed bodies. This is mental gymnastics. But it works. Conviction beats reality. Contrast with Islamic world striking. In Istanbul, Cairo, Baghdad, people still go to hammams. Wash regularly. Use soap. Keep bodies clean. Europeans landing there shocked. Call Muslims washing obsessed. As if it's pathology. Europeans sure, their way correct. Dry cleanliness, civilized, reasonable, safe. Eastern baths, exotic, strangeness, perhaps debauchery. So Europe lives 2.5 centuries, from 15th to mid-19th century. Half millennium of water refusal. What changed? Catastrophe. Again, as always, not plague this time, but something more prosaic, but no less deadly. Own sewage. What changed? What finally broke this cycle of dirt? Catastrophe. Again, as always, but this time it led to return through catastrophe. London, 19th century, world's largest city, British Empire capital, Industrial Revolution heart, and 2.5 million inhabitants. Factories, plants, banks, exchanges, wealth flowing from whole world, and city drowning in sewage. No sewage system, or rather, there is, but it can't cope. Old system built centuries ago for rainwater drainage, not for sewage. Sewage must go somewhere. People use cesspits, in house basements, in yards. Sewage flows there. Pits must periodically be cleaned. Night workers arrive, night soil men. Scoop out contents with ladles, load onto carts, haul outside city. But with population growth system breaks. Not enough pits. They overflow. Night soil men can't keep up. Sewage seeps into soil, into wells, into Thames. Thames, London's main waterway. River City stands on, river from which water taken. Drunk, cooked with, washed in, and into it everything poured. Sewage from overflowing cesspits, slaughterhouse runoff, factory waste, dead animals. Everything goes into Thames. Thames water brown, viscous, stinking, but no choice. Its only water source for most of city. Poor drink straight from river. Wealthy from wells, but those fed by groundwater seeping through sewage-soaked soil. Diseases flourish, cholera, typhus, dysentery, epidemic after epidemic. 1832, cholera kills 7,000. 1848, 14,000. 1854, 10,000. Doctors don't understand cause. Miasma theory still dominates. Disease carried by smell. Logic. Eliminate smell. Eliminate disease. They try fighting smell. Sprinkle streets with chlorine. Burn sulfur. Hang sachets with camphor in houses. Doesn't help. And Thames stinks stronger. In summer, when hot, smell becomes unbearable. Rotting sewage ferments in sun. Gases rise. Stench hangs over river, over city. 1858. Summer unusually hot. Temperature holds above 30 degrees for weeks. Thames shallowed. Current slowed. Sewage stopped washing to sea. Accumulates. Rots. Smell reaches unprecedented strength. This isn't just unpleasant smell. This is physical ordeal. People cannot breathe. Choke. Suffocate. Hang curtains soaked in chlorine on windows. Doesn't help. Stench penetrates everywhere. Parliament, building on Thames Bank. MPS gather for sessions. Cannot work. Smell unbearable. Open windows. Worse. Close. Stuffy. Hang curtains soaked in chlorine. Helps slightly. But still MPS choke. Gag. Run out for fresh air. They try conducting session. Cannot. Interrupted every 10 minutes. Several MPS faint. Sessions suspended. This called Great Stink of 1858. Event that changed everything. Because now stench touched power. Before poor suffered. But MPs lived in good neighborhoods. Far from Thames. Didn't feel problems' acuteness. Now felt it. In full measure. And decision made instantly. Parliament allocates enormous sum, £3 million sterling, for sewage construction. Project discussed for years, rejected as too expensive, suddenly becomes priority. Engineer Joseph Bazalgette receives carte blanche. He presents grandiose plan. System of underground tunnels encircling London. Huge collectors gathering sewage from across city. Pumping stations pumping it outside city, far down Thames, where current will carry to sea. Construction lasts 16 years. Thousands of workers dig tunnels under city. Hundreds of kilometers of pipes. 6 main collectors. 4 pumping stations. Engineering feat. By 1875, system completed. Begins operating, and miracle happens. Thames clears. Water becomes more transparent. Smell disappears. If fish return to river. And most importantly, cholera epidemics stop. From 1866 on, not a single major outbreak. People stop dying by thousands. Connection obvious. Clean water, health. Dirty water, disease. Miasmas have nothing to do with it. Problem is sewage entering drinking. Water. Discovery not instantaneous. Dr. John Snow, as early as 1854, proved cholera transmitted through water, not air. Conducted epidemiological investigation. Traced Soho cholera outbreak to one water pump. Removed pump handle. Epidemic stopped. But scientific world skeptical. Miasma theory too entrenched. Hard to convince. Took years, evidence, repeated studies. By 1870s, germ theory wins. Louis Pasteur in France, Robert Koch in Germany. prove. Diseases caused by microorganisms, bacteria. They're in dirty water. They're in sewage. Enter body through mouth, through wounds. Cause infections. Water again becomes friend. Not enemy as believed since plague times, a health source, but only clean water. Dirty water. Deadly. Hygiene gains scientific foundation. Body cleanliness. Not vanity, not luxury. Medical necessity. Wash hands before eating. Wash body regularly. Launder clothes. Use clean water. All this saves lives. Victorian era becomes era of hygienic revolution. Cleanliness obsession. Reaction to 2.5 centuries of filth. Cleanliness becomes moral imperative. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Victorian era slogan. If you're dirty, you're sinful. If you're clean, you're virtuous. Poor taught to wash. Public baths open. Cheap or free. Everyone must have opportunity to wash. This question not of personal comfort, but of public health. Baths become mandatory home part. First in rich houses, then in middle-class homes. Separate room, bathroom, copper or cast iron tub. Plumbing supplies water, cold, sometimes hot. Comfort revolution. Washing process becomes ritual. Not quick dunking like before, but prolonged procedure. With soap, sponges, brushes, hair washing, teeth brushing, nail care, all regulated. Hygiene textbooks teach proper technique. Soap mass-produced. England, France, Germany. Factories produce tons of soap annually. For laundry, for washing. Different grades. Cheap for poor. Fragrant for wealthy. Soap advertising becomes industry. Street posters. Pear's soap will make you white. Racist slogan hinting cleanliness associated with white skin. Lifebuoy soap will protect you from disease. Appeals to germ fear. Germs, new enemy. Invisible. Ubiquitous. Scarier than miasmas because real. People learn. Germs on hands, on surfaces, in food. Must constantly fight. Wash, clean, disinfect. Cleanliness obsession reaches extremes. Victorians wipe everything with chlorine. Wash floors daily. Launder bedding weekly. Boil dishes. Fear of invisible germs makes every surface suspicious. Women spend hours cleaning. House must shine. No dust speck, no stain. This reputation question. Dirty house, shame. Dirty house hostess, unworthy woman. Servants scrub, scrape, wash, polish. In rich houses, entire army of maids occupied only with cleaning. Victorian house, cleanliness factory operating non-stop. But dangers also appear. In cleanliness pursuit, aggressive substances used. Chlorine, carbolic acid, phenol, corrosive supplement, mercury salt. Disinfect wounds, surfaces, effectively kill germs, but also burn skin, cause poisoning. Women continue using toxic cosmetics, arsenic for paleness, taken internally in small doses. Arsenic wafers, popular remedy, give porcelain skin eye shine, but accumulate in body, cause chronic poisoning. Death in installments, belladonna. Eye drops for pupil dilation. Large pupils considered beautiful. But belladonna, poison, causes vision disturbances, palpitations. In large doses, death. Corsets tightened to limit. Waist must be thin. 50 centimeters, ideal. For this deform ribs. Compress internal organs. Women faint from air lack. But beauty demands sacrifices. Victorian era, paradox. On one hand, scientific hygiene triumph. Clean water, soap, sewage, germ understanding. Mortality reduction. Life expectancy increase. On other hand, new obsession. Cleanliness as morality. Dirt as sin. Germ fear reaching paranoia. And willingness to sacrifice health for beauty, for standard conformity. But main thing, water returned. After 500 years of fear, Europeans wash again. Not as fanatically as Egyptians, not as ritually as Vikings, not as aesthetically as Golden Age Muslims, but regularly, systematically, with understanding of why this is important. Hygiene stopped being faith or tradition question, became science question, and this changed the world. Act 2. Legends, myths that killed and saved. We've seen the reality. Now let's dive into the myths, the legends millions genuinely believed, the stories that shaped civilizations. Let's begin with myths of cleanliness, and where better to start than with Egyptian water magic. Return 3,000 years, two origins to Nile. Egyptians didn't just wash, they performed sacred act. Each ablution was communion with gods. Each water drop carried divine power. Why? Because in Egypt, water is miracle. Amid desert, where rain doesn't fall for years, flows river. River giving life. Without Nile, there'd be no Egypt. Only sand and death. Nile floods annually. Midsummer water rises, overflows banks, floods fields, carries black silt from Ethiopian highlands. Fertile silt settles on fields. When water recedes, land ready for sowing. This cycle, Egyptian life's foundation. If Nile doesn't flood, famine. If floods too strongly, deluge, destruction. Right flood needed, right time, right height. Egyptians believed Nile flooding controlled by gods, more precisely, goddess Tears. Isis. Myth says god Osiris, Isis's husband, was killed by brother Set. Body cut into 14 pieces, scattered across Egypt. Isis grieved, wept, searched for husband's body parts, collected 13, didn't find one. Fish ate it. Isis's tears fell into Nile. From her grief river flooded land, cleansed, renewed, gave new life. Therefore flooding called Tears of Isis. This was sacred time, renewal time. Time when water carried divine power. Nile water considered living water. Not just H2O, but substance saturated with divine energy. Washing in Nile water, touching divine. Cleansing not only physically but spiritually. Priests performed ritual ablutions in temple pools before dawn, when water still cold, when stars still visible. This was time between night and day, time when boundary between human and divine worlds thinner. Priest entered water. 3. Times submerged completely. Thrice, sacred number. First, immersion washed body dirt. Second, soul dirt. Third, opened him for divine presence. Exiting water, he pronounced prayer. I am pure. I am pure. I am pure. I am pure. My purity is purity of great phoenix in Heracleopolis. Fourfold repetition, incantation, reality affirmation through word. Common Egyptians also believed in water's magical power, but differently. Legend existed about Cleopatra, not historical queen, but mythological ancient beauty. Said she bathed in donkey milk. 500 donkeys milked daily to fill her bath. Milk made skin white, smooth, unfading. Real Cleopatra. 7th, Egypt's last queen, possibly indeed used milk baths. Milk contains lactic acid, gently exfoliating skin. But legend exaggerated. 500 donkeys, myth, but beautiful myth. Myth that right bath can give eternal youth. Another legend about water of life. Somewhere at Nile's sources, far south, beyond cataracts, beyond known world's limits, exists source. Source of primordial water. Water from which world arose. Who drinks from this source gains immortality. Pharaohs allegedly sent expeditions seeking this source. None found. But legend lived. Because gave hope. Hope that somewhere exists water defeating death. Opening of mouth ritual, funeral ceremony, also connected with water. After mummification, before sealing sarcophagus, priest performed ritual. Touched mummy's lips with special instrument. Pronounced spells. dripped sacred water on mouth. Believed water revived dead person's mouth, gave ability to speak in afterlife, eat, drink, breathe. Without this ritual, deceased would be mute and helpless in Osiris's kingdom. Water, life, even for dead, but not all water equal. Nile water, sacred. Well water, ordinary. Stagnant swamp water, dangerous. There evil spirits live. Demons, diseases. Egyptians knew. Drinking from stagnant water, dangerous, empirical knowledge. People, drinking from swamps, often sickened, died, so water cursed. Actually, parasites. Schistosomiasis common in Nile's stagnant waters. Parasitic worms penetrating through skin, causing chronic exhaustion. Egyptians didn't know about worms. Attributed disease to demons in water. Hair demon vessel myth also connected with water. Believed demons hide in hair, cling to hairs, penetrate body through hair roots. Therefore, hair must be removed, regularly, thoroughly. Shaving, not hygiene in modern sense. It's exorcism, demon expulsion. After shaving, body washed. Water washed away remaining demonic power. Made skin clean, protected, ready for God communication. When Egyptian died, body underwent final purification. Mummification wasn't just preserving body for afterlife. It was ritual cleansing brought to absolute. Body washed in Nile water, then opened. Internal organs removed. Decay source. Brain extracted through nose with special hook. Cavities washed with palm wine and aromatics, then filled with natron. Natron drew all moisture from tissues. For 70 days, body lay in natron, completely dried, then washed again, rubbed with oils, wrapped in linen bandages soaked in resin. Between layers placed amulets, mask placed on face. Result was mummy, body cleansed of all mortal, ready for eternity. Egyptians believed in afterlife God's weigh deceased's heart on scales against Maat's feather, truth and order symbol. If heart heavier, monster Amit devours it, soul destroyed. If lighter or equal, soul gains eternal life. Body cleanliness in life was preparation for this judgment. Clean body, clean heart, eternal life. Logical chain-linking hygiene with cosmology made cleanliness not domestic matter, but religious imperative. When Romans conquered Egypt, they were amazed. Romans themselves were clean nation, but Egyptians surpassed them. Roman historian wrote, Egyptians wash twice daily and twice nightly. They believe body. Cleanliness leads to soul cleanliness. Egypt was unattainable standard. Against its background, entire rest of ancient world looked dirty. But Egypt's time passed. Civilization faded, knowledge scattered, and Europe, inheriting much from antiquity, didn't inherit Egyptian cleanliness obsession. From Egyptian magic, let's travel north again, to Vikings and their belief in living water. North, ice and fire, land where from under snow hot springs gush, where water can be cold as death and hot as blood. Vikings lived in contrast world, half year, polar night, half year, unsetting sun. Winter, blizzards, frosts, darkness. Summer, endless day, greenery, life. For Vikings, water also dual. Sea, source of wealth and danger, gave fish, trade routes, conquest lands, but also took lives. Storms drowned ships, cold waters killed in minutes. Fresh water, God's gift, rivers, lakes, springs, and especially hot springs. Geothermal waters heated by Earth's internal fire. They were miracle, mystery, sacred place. Iceland, island of volcanoes and geysers, was land where earth and water met in drama. Hot springs gushed everywhere. Water boiled, raising steam clouds. Earth trembled. Volcanoes spewed lava and ash. Vikings settling Iceland in 9th century were amazed. They believed this is world where boundary between Midgard, human world, and other worlds thin. Here gods close, here magic strong, hot springs considered portals, places where worlds intersect, where can touch divine or dangerous. Legend tells of Balder, light and beauty god, most beloved of gods. His mother Frigg took oath from all things in world, from stones, plants, animals, diseases, that they wouldn't harm Balder. Forgot only about young mistletoe. Loki, trickster god, learned this, made spear from mistletoe. Trickingly made blind, god Herder throw spear at Balder. Spear pierced Balder. He died. Gods tried reviving him, sent messenger to Hell, death's realm. Goddess Hel agreed, releasing Balder if all in world would mourn him. All mourned, except one giantess. She refused, said to be Loki disguised. Balder remained in death's realm, until Ragnarok, world's end, when he'll revive. But before death, Balder bathed in sacred spring. Hot waters gave strength, health, protection. After bathing, his skin glowed. He was invulnerable. Almost. Mistletoe didn't touch water, didn't give oath, remained loophole. Legend taught water gives protection, but not absolute. There's always weak spot. Vikings bathed in hot springs not only for cleanliness, but for healing. Believed water heals wounds, diseases, fatigue. Warriors after battle went to springs, washed blood, healed wounds. Hot water indeed helped. Relaxed muscles, improved circulation. Sulfur and minerals in water had antiseptic properties. Wounds healed faster. This was empirical knowledge, clothed in mythology. Also believed water gives spirit strength. Before important decision, before voyage, before dual man went to bath or spring, cleansed, meditated, asked water for wisdom. Water listened, water answered. Not with words, but with sensations, thought clarity, spirit calm. After bathing, decision came easier. This worked because hot water and steam indeed affect brain. Relaxation, improved circulation, endorphin release. Modern science explains. But Vikings attributed to water magic. Saturday, Laugardagor, was sacred washing day. Why Saturday? Legend connected with Loki. Loki was trickster god, cunning, unpredictable, dangerous. He helped gods and betrayed them. He was necessary, but unreliable. Gods kept him near, but didn't trust. Loki associated with fire, change, chaos, also with cleansing. Fire cleanses by burning impurities. Water cleanses by washing them. Loki paradoxically patronized both. Saturday was Loki's day. Day when his power weakened. Day when could safely handle cleansing elements. Washing this day, using Loki's power, but controlled, tamed. After weeks' labors, after accumulating dirt and fatigue, Saturday was renewal day. Washed away not only physical dirt, but bad luck accumulated over week. Evil eyes, curses, everything that could stick to person from surrounding world. Vikings believed in luck and bad luck materiality. These aren't abstract concepts. These are forces can attract or repel. Body cleanliness helped attract luck. Dirt attracted bad luck. Unwashed, tangled-haired, dirty-clothed person, not just unkempt. He attracts bad luck, like magnet. His affairs go poorly. Ship hits storm, crop dies. In battle, he's killed. Conversely, clean, groomed, fragrant person attracts luck. Wind favorable, trade profitable, weapon true. This was practical magic. Worked because person's self-confidence depends on appearance. Clean, groomed person feels stronger, acts more confidently, achieves more. Vikings didn't separate psychology and magic. For them, it was one. Light hair also magical. Gods, Thor, Balder. Freya described golden-haired, light hair associated with divinity, with power, with beauty. Dark-haired Vikings wanted lighter, used alkaline soap, but not just for beauty. Believed lightening hair, becoming closer to gods, taking piece of their power. This was ritual transformation. Man with platinum hair and groomed beard wasn't just handsome. He was godlike, in others' eyes and his own. When Viking went to battle, he wanted looking like Thor, mighty, light-haired, formidable. Appearance gave psychological advantage. Enemies saw not just man, but war god embodiment. Of course, hair lightening also killed lice. Alkali corroded insect chitin. Practical benefit and mythological meaning coincided. Beard combing, also ritual. Slow comb movements, concentration, meditation. Time thinking about past day, about coming, about life. Comb was personal item, like sword, like amulet, not given to strangers. Believed, comb stores piece of owner's spirit. If enemy gets your comb, can cast curse. Use hairs stuck in teeth for magic against you. Therefore combs buried with owners. In afterlife, warrior will comb beard in Valhalla. Preparing for Ragnarok, final battle. Water, cleanliness, self-care for Vikings weren't domestic matters. This was eternity preparation. Each day could be last. In battle, at sea, from disease. Warrior must be ready, appearing before gods. Clean, worthy, beautiful. When Christianity came to Scandinavia, culture clash was sharp. Christian missionaries preached flesh mortification, asceticism, bodily pleasure refusal. Vikings didn't understand. How can not care for body given by gods? How can insult gods with dirt? But gradually Christianity won. Old gods forgotten. Water magic myths faded. By 13th, 14th century, Viking descendants in Norway, Sweden, Denmark washed no longer from religious reverence but from habit. And then habit began fading too. Under continental Europe's influence, where water became enemy, Scandinavians also began washing less. Bath remained, tradition preserved, but sacredness gone. Water from divine gift became ordinary liquid, useful, but not sacred. Now from frozen north, let's journey to the burning desert, to understand Islamic paradise and water. Arabian desert, 7th century AD, heat cracking earth, sand stretching to horizon, rare oases where palms grow around spring. Water here not just valuable. Water is life in most literal sense. 3 days without water in desert, death. Water dearer than gold. In this world arises new religion, Islam. Prophet Muhammad receives revelations from Allah, later recorded in Quran, and Quran full of water. Paradise described as garden, but not empty garden. Garden with rivers. 4 rivers flowing through paradise. River of purest water, river of milk, river of wine, not intoxicating, but delightful. River of purified honey, water first. Because for desert person water, greatest dream. Quran says, and we made from water every living thing. Surah Al-Anbiya 21:30. Water, life source, creation foundation. Allah sends rain as mercy, revives dead earth with it. Water, sign of divine love and care. And water cleanliness, religious obligation. Before prayer, Muslim must perform ablution. Wudu, minor ablution. Hands, face, head, feet. If no water, symbolic ablution with sand. Tayammum, but water preferable. Water truly cleanses. Sand, only symbol. After certain states, sexual contact, menstruation, childbirth, need major ablution. Ghusl, entire body, mandatory. Without this cannot pray, cannot touch Quran, cannot enter mosque. This makes water not just hygienic means. This is ritual necessity, connection between human and God. Dirt on body, barrier between soul and Allah. Water removes barrier. Legend tells, when Prophet Muhammad made night journey, Isra and Miraj, he was ascended from Mecca to Jerusalem. From there to heavens, passed through 7 heavens, met past prophets, Adam, Isa, Jesus, Musa, Moses. On each heaven were rivers, purest, clearer than crystal. Prophet drank from these rivers, water sweeter than honey, refreshed not only body but soul, gave strength continuing ascent. On 7th heaven, Prophet saw paradise rivers. They began at Allah's throne foot, flowed down through heavens, irrigated paradise gardens. Water in them never spoiled, never stagnant, flowed eternally, symbol of eternal life. This legend strengthened believers. Water, divine. Cleanliness, path to God. Neglecting cleanliness neglects God. Hammam, public bath, became religious institution, not officially. Quran doesn't prescribe building hammams, but practice developed logically. If ablution, religious obligation, need places where can wash. In mosques were ablution rooms, but for full ablution, especially in city where not every house has bath, need public baths. Hammam became place not only of washing, but socializing, even spiritual practice. Some Sufis, Islamic mystics, used hammam for meditation. Heat, steam, water, solitude helped entering altered consciousness state, approaching divine. Legend existed about righteous man who spent 40 days and nights in hammam. Didn't eat, only drank water and prayed. Emerged, transformed. His skin glowed, eyes saw, hidden. He reached maqam, spiritual station close to sainthood. Of course, 40 days without food would kill person. Legend exaggerates, but symbolism clear. Water and cleanliness, path to spiritual transformation. Prophet Muhammad himself spoke about cleanliness importance. Hadiths, Prophet's sayings, full of advice. Cleanliness is half of faith. Muslim should be clean, smell pleasant. Clean teeth with miswak. Remove underarm and pubic hair. These instructions formed cleanliness culture. Not every Muslim followed perfectly, but standard established. Knew how properly. Water in Islam also associated with repentance, sin, soul, contamination. Ablution water symbolically washed sins away. Of course, true repentance required sincere remorse, an intention not repeating sin. But ablution was external sign of internal cleansing. Legend about Zuleika, beauty who fell in love with Prophet Joseph, contains water episode. Zuleika tried seducing Yusuf. He refused, keeping God faith. Zuleika repented. Years later, aged and having lost beauty, she heard Yusuf passing by. Went to river, washed, prayed, asked Allah returning her youth so she could once more see Yusuf not as ruin, but as she was. Allah accepted her repentance. River water became miraculous. Washing Zuleika again became young. Yusuf saw her, recognized, and Allah joined them in marriage. Zuleika gained happiness, lost through sin, through repentance, a miraculous water. Legend taught, sincere repentance transforms. Water, instrument of this transformation, physical and spiritual. In Islamic culture also existed myth about Zamzam, sacred Mecca spring. Legend tells Hagar, Prophet Abraham's wife, remained with infant Ismail in desert. Water ran out. Infant cried from thirst. Hagar desperately ran between 2 hills, Safa and Marwa, seeking water. Suddenly, at infant's feet, spring gushed. Angel Gabriel, struck earth. Water flowed. Hagar cried, Zamzam, stop, stop, so water wouldn't spread. Zamzam spring exists to this day in Mecca. Water from it considered sacred. Pilgrims performing Hajj drink from Zamzam, fill bottles, carry home. Believe water heals diseases, gives strength, brings blessing. Chemical analysis shows Zamzam water rich in minerals, safe for drinking. But pilgrims attribute more. Miraculous properties, ability fulfilling prayers. Legend says Drink Zamzam water with intention, your intention fulfilled. Want healing? Drink with healing intention. Want knowledge? Drink with knowledge, gain intention. Water obeys drinker's intention. This is faith, not scientifically provable, but strong. Millions of Muslims believe, and for them, Zamzam water truly possesses power. Placebo? Possibly, but placebo works if believe. Islamic water myths formed hygiene culture, not through coercion, through conviction. Water, Allah's gift. Cleanliness, path to God. Dirt, barrier. All logical, all connected. When Crusaders came to Middle East, they encountered this culture, saw hammams, saw how Muslims wash 5 times daily before prayers, were amazed. Some Crusaders perceived positively, began imitating. Others considered it paganism, Muslim perversion. True Christians shouldn't resemble infidels. Church was wary. Ablution, part of pagan rituals. Jews perform ritual ablutions, Muslims too. Christians don't need constant ablutions. Baptism enough. Once, rest is excess. Islamic cleanliness culture remained in East. Europe didn't adopt. Division deepened. Clean Muslims, dirty Christians. Stereotype with basis in reality. We've explored myths that celebrated water. Now we must confront the opposite, the myths that demonized it. Medieval legends of evil water return to Europe. 13th to 14th centuries. After plague, water became suspicious. Legends began forming justifying washing refusal. First legend category about baths as sin sources. Public baths existing in Europe since Roman times indeed had dubious reputation. These weren't only washing places, these were meeting places, socializing, and often prostitution. In medieval baths, men and women washed together. Not always, but often, especially in German lands. Naked or semi-naked people in hot water, steamed, relaxed, atmosphere conducive to closeness. Prostitutes worked at baths, offered not only washing but additional services. Baths became debauchery synonym. Church condemned. Preachers thundered from pulpits. Bath, devil's house, their temptation, their sin Christian must avoid. Legends multiplied, told about monk who entered bath, saw naked woman, succumbed to temptation, sinned, later repented, but soul was lost, died in sin. Devils took him to hell, all because of bath. Another story. Pious girl entered bath. Their evil spirit, taking handsome youth's form, seduced her. She bore demon child. Child killed her at birth. Village cursed. All because of bath. Of course, real stories were simpler. Unplanned pregnancies, venereal diseases, scandals. But in medieval consciousness, this interpreted as devil's intervention. Bath, his territory. By 15th century, many baths closed, partly due to epidemics, partly due to church's moral pressure, partly due to culture change. Nobility stopped visiting baths, became unfashionable. Second legend type, about saints who never washed. Sainthood in Christianity associated with flesh mortification. Saint had to suffer, refuse comforts, starve, sleep on bare ground, wear hair shirt, rough clothing of prickly wool irritating skin. And of course not wash. Saint Agnes of Rome, 3rd century martyr, according to hagiography, vowed virginity, refused marrying. For this, sentenced to death. But before death, in prison, she allegedly spent 13 years and never once washed. Considered washing flesh indulgence, thus sin. When finally executed, her body was dirty, covered with sores, but soul purest. Body dirt, soul cleanliness sign. Saint Simeon Stylites, 5th century Syrian ascetic, spent 37 years atop stone pillar. Pillar 15 meters high, platform on top 2 by 2 meters. There Simeon prayed, fasted, preached to gathered people below. He didn't descend, didn't wash. Clothing rotted on him, body covered with dirt and parasites. Worms crawled over skin, feeding on dead flesh. Simeon endured, considered suffering path to God. He was revered as great saint, example for emulation. If want being saint, refuse fleshly comforts, including washing. Of course, not all Christians went to such extremes, but ideal was established. Dirtier, holier. Body cleanliness, vanity sign. Dirt, humility sign. Legend about king who died from bath appeared later. Some European monarch. Details vary. Sometimes say French king, sometimes German emperor. Decided bathing after long break. Servants prepared bath. King entered hot water. An hour later found dead. Drowned. No, water was shallow. Heart, possibly. But folk told differently. Said, king's body was covered with years' dirt. Dirt protected. Water washed protection away. Pores opened. Miasmas, diseases stored in air rushed into body. King died from water, from own stupidity deciding to wash. Legend warned, don't do same. Dirt protects, water kills. Truth likely simpler. Elderly man with sick heart entered too hot bath. Heart couldn't handle. But for medieval people, direct cause-effect clear. Washed, died. Similar stories accumulated, passed on, grew details, became warnings. Doctors supported. Miasma medical theory gave scientific justification. Water opens pores. Through open pores, disease penetrates easier. Closed pores, protection. Skin dirt helps keeping pores closed. Famous physician alchemist Paracelsus in 16th century wrote, human skin covered with natural protection layer. This layer consists of sweat, fat, and other secretions. It protects from external influences. Too frequent washing removes this layer, makes person vulnerable. Logic flawless, with one caveat, too frequent washing. But what means too frequent? Every day, every week, every month. Interpretation shifted toward minimum, rarer, safer. Once yearly, sufficient. Or better not risk at all. Legends about people getting sick after washing also multiplied. Remember neighbor Hans, went Easter to bath. Week later took fever. Month later died. Bath killed him. Coincidence? Of course, Hans could catch infection anywhere, maybe even in bath. Not from water, but from other visitors. But people saw connection. Bath to disease to death. Conclusion: avoid bath. Such logic called post hoc ergo propter hoc, after therefore because. Logical fallacy. But human brain inclined making it, especially when afraid. Fear stronger than logic. Fear formed culture. Culture formed legends. Legends reinforced fear. Closed circle. By 16th century Europe formed firm conviction. Water dangerous. Washing dangerous. Smart people don't wash. Only ignorant, not knowing danger, get into water. But medieval superstition wasn't enough. The Renaissance would dress these fears in scientific clothing, creating legends of scientific dirt. 17th century, scientific revolution era. Galileo looks through telescope. Newton formulates motion laws. Descartes proclaims, I think, therefore I am. Reason triumphs, and same reason finds proofs washing unnecessary. Doctors conduct experiments. Take two people. Force one washing daily. Don't wash other at all. Observe month. Result: both alive, both more or less healthy. Conclusion: washing not mandatory. Of course, month too short-term, seeing long-term effects. Of course, experiment conditions not controlled. But conclusion made, published, cited. Another doctor compares mortality in different social groups. Discovers poor who wash rarely or not at all don't die more often than wealthy who wash, also rarely but sometimes. Conclusion: washing doesn't affect life expectancy, so unnecessary. Ignored that wealthy eat better, live in better conditions, have doctor access, while poor work hard, undernourished, live cramped. Washing only one of many factors, but doctor sees only washing. Third doctor studies plague patients. Some washed shortly before illness. Others didn't wash. Both types got sick. Conclusion: washing doesn't protect from plague. True. Water indeed doesn't protect from plague. Plague carried by fleas. But doctor makes next step. If washing doesn't protect, possibly it even harms. Opens disease pathways. Logical jump. But no one disputes. Published. Becomes authoritative opinion. Paracelsus, already mentioned physician reformer, goes further. Develops protective layer theory. According to this theory, body produces natural protection. Sweat, fat, sebum form skin layer. This layer, like armor, protects from cold, heat, wind, miasmas. Washing, removing armor, making yourself defenseless. Smart person preserves protective layer, allows it accumulating, thick layer, best protection. This theory beautiful. It explains, gives practical guidance. Don't wash, be healthy. Ignore that skin dirt, bacteria breeding ground. That inflamed, itchy skin under dirt layer prone to infections. Microbes not yet discovered. Bacteria invisible. And visible effects interpreted differently. Itch, body adapting to protective layer. Endure, rash, body expelling internal toxins outward through skin. Good, means cleansing. Sores, organism fighting internal infection. Coming out, healing, process. Everything explained within the theory framework. Theory confirms itself through fact interpretation. Circular logic, but convincing for those wanting to believe, and want to believe, because washing inconvenient, water cold, heating hard, procedure long, result doubtful. If there's theories saying cannot wash, gladly believe. Doctors tell practice stories. Patient came complaining weakness. Doctor asked, "Did you wash recently?" Patient, "Yes, last week." Doctor, "There's cause. Water weakened your body. Don't wash anymore. Drink wine and eat meat. Recover." Patient followed advice. 2 weeks later felt better. Wine and meat gave strength. But patient attributed recovery to washing refusal. Told friends. Doctor told don't wash and I recovered. Water, poison. Story spreads. Becomes legend. Another proof. Legend about Emperor Charles V, 16th century's mightiest monarch, ruler of empire where sun never set. Said, he took bath once yearly, strictly by medical indications. Doctor prescribed. Charles reluctantly agreed, considered it dangerous. After bath, Charles observed bed rest 3 days, wrapped in furs, didn't leave room, recovered from shock inflicted on body by water. True? Unknown. Sources contradict. But legend spread. If even emperor, having best doctors and unlimited resources, fears washing, danger real. Another legend about doctor killed by own bath. Doctor studying ancient texts found Roman treatises about bathing benefits. Decided checking on himself, built bath, heated water, immersed, enjoyed, felt relaxation, but after hour felt weakness, dizziness, got out of bath, fell, died on spot. What happened? Likely heart attack, or overheating in too hot water. But contemporaries interpreted differently. Ancient Romans were pagans, their customs impious. Christian imitating pagans invokes curse. Doctor paid for pride. Morale, don't imitate ancients. Their customs not for us. Catholic Church in this period also contributed. Monks, especially ascetic orders, continued unwashedness as holiness tradition. Franciscans following Saint Francis of Assisi's precepts, refused all comforts, including washing. Barefoot, in rough robes, dirty, they walked through cities preaching. Their dirt was world renunciation sign, holiness sign. Folk saw monks, respected, imitated. If saints don't wash, why wash us? Exceptions existed. Some monasteries, especially wealthy Benedictine, had baths, but used rarely. Charter prescribed ablution twice yearly, more considered excessive. By 17th century, Europe fully convinced itself, washing unnecessary, even harmful. Science, medicine, religion, common sense, all converged. Water, enemy. This conviction will last until 19th century, until catastrophe, until great stink, until microbe discovery. Only catastrophe will break myths. Only science, true science, will show truth. But until then, 200 years living in dirt. Life, seeming correct, civilized, reasonable. Yet slowly, cracks began appearing. Water began its slow journey back, through transitional legends that would eventually make water friend again. 18th century, Enlightenment age, reason, science, progress. Encyclopedists in France, philosophers in England and Germany. Faith in human reason, in possibility knowing world, improving life. And gradually, slowly, water begins returning. Not immediately, not revolutionarily, but cracks appear in conviction wall. First crack, mineral springs. In Europe, long-known springs with unusual water, hot, salty, sulfur-smelling. People noticed, bathing in these springs helps, joint pain reduces, skin diseases heal, general well-being improves. How explain in theory framework that water harmful? Doctors found exit. Ordinary water harmful, but mineral water different. It's saturated with healing minerals, sulfur, salt, iron cure. This isn't water washing body. This is minerals acting. Water, only carrier. Logic preserved, miasma theory not refuted, but exception made. Resorts begin flourishing. Bath in England, Karlovy in Bohemia, Baden-Baden in Germany, Vichy in France. Aristocracy arrives, taking waters, treating, bathing in mineral baths, drinking mineral water. This becomes fashionable, prestigious. Summer season at resorts, social event, balls, receptions, meetings. And between, bathing. Doctors prescribe course, 10 days, 20 days. Each day, mineral water bath, strictly timed. 10 minutes no more. Doctor observes, records effects. Patients feel improvement. Not always from water, often from rest, good food, clean air, stress absence. But a tribute to water. Tell friends, was at bath, wonderfully helped. Legends about mineral springs grow. Each spring acquires reputation. This cures gout, that, infertility. Third, melancholy. Brochures appear. Miraculous properties of Karlovy Vary waters. Healings at bath. Patient. Testimonies. Doctors write treatises. Analyze water composition. Explain action mechanism. Science tries understanding. Why does mineral water help if water generally harmful? One theory. Minerals close pores, form protective layer. After bath, skin covered with invisible mineral film. It protects. Ordinary water lacks such property. It washes away. Mineral covers. Theory saves main dogma. Ordinary water harmful, but gives possibility using mineral. Gradually idea arises. Maybe can wash in ordinary water, but with additives. Salt, vinegar, herbs. This will make water not just water, but healing solution. Aristocrats begin experimenting. Baths with added salt. Baths with chamomile decoction. Baths with milk, remembering Cleopatra legend. Baths with wine. Why not? This still not regular washing. These are healing procedures. Rare, special. But barrier begins breaking. Second crack. Discovering connection between dirt and disease. Doctors begin noticing patterns. Hospitals where don't clean, where sheets not changed, where instruments not cleaned. In such hospitals, patients die more often. Wounds fester, fevers rage. Hospitals where pay attention to cleanliness, patients recover better. Correlation noticed, but explanation still old. Dirt generates miasmas. Miasmas cause disease, so need removing dirt. Not for cleanliness per se, but so no miasmas. Solution: ventilate wards, burn aromatic herbs, whitewash walls with lime. Lime supposedly absorbs miasmas. And wash floors. Wash floors with water, with soap, daily. Water reappears. But for floor washing, not bodies. Surgeons notice, after operations, if hands and instruments dirty, patients die from putrid fever. If hands washed, instruments cleaned, patients survive more often. Ignaz Semmelweis, Hungarian doctor working in Vienna maternity ward in 1840s, made discovery. In one ward where doctors and medical students delivered births, maternal mortality was 12%. In another, where midwives worked, 2%. Why? Semmelweis noticed. Doctors and students came to births after cadaver dissections, washed hands but poorly. Smell remained. Semmelweis supposed something from cadavers transfers to birthing mothers, causes childbed fever. What exactly? Didn't know. Called decomposing matter. Solution: wash hands with chlorinated lime solution, thoroughly, until smell disappears. Doctors began washing. Mortality dropped to 2%. Matched midwives' ward. Semmelweis rejoiced. Published results. Awaited recognition. Didn't receive it. Medical community rejected. Offended. You accuse us doctors of killing patients? Absurd. Gentlemen's hands cannot be dirty. Semmelweis ridiculed. Fired. He went mad from despair. Died in psychiatric clinic. But idea was sown. Other doctors, more diplomatic, continued. Joseph Lister in England introduced antisepsis, sprayed operating rooms with carbolic acid, washed hands, and instruments. Post-operation mortality sharply decreased. Lister received recognition, became famous. Method spread. Water with antiseptic became ally. Not just water, water plus chemistry. Killing, what? Miasmas. Lister thought so. Actually, microbes, but microbes not yet known. Third crack, microbe discovery. Louis Pasteur in France studied fermentation. Discovered. Process caused by microscopic organisms. Yeast, bacteria. Discovered. Bacteria also cause decay, food, spoilage, and maybe diseases. Conducted experiments. Heating kills bacteria. Pasteurization, process named after him. Milk heated to 60 degrees and cooled stores longer, because bacteria killed. Robert Koch in Germany went further. Isolated specific bacteria causing specific diseases. Anthrax bacillus, tuberculosis rod, cholera vibrio. Proved bacteria, disease cause. Not miasmas, not bad air. Microscopic living organisms. This is revolution. Complete miasma theory refutation. New disease. Understanding. A new hygiene understanding. If bacteria cause diseases, need eliminating bacteria. How? Wash, clean, disinfect. Water again becomes health tool. With soap it washes bacteria away. With antiseptics, kills them. Germ theory slowly conquers minds. Takes 20 to 30 years. Old doctors resist, young accept. By late 19th century, germ theory won. Became medicine foundation and hygiene foundation. Evil water legend died. New legend born about water savior. That washes microbes away. That protects from diseases. Pendulum swung opposite direction. From water fear to cleanliness obsession. From unwashedness as norm to daily washing as necessity. Transition was swift. One generation feared water, next washed fanatically. Culture changed radically. Why? Because science gave explanation, not mythical, not religious, scientific, verifiable. Microbes can be seen in microscope, can be cultured, can be studied. This convinced. Science in 19th century gained authority previously belonging to church. If science says, wash, will wash, and washed, with enthusiasm, with fanaticism. Victorian era turned cleanliness into religion. But we already discussed this. Important understanding. Transition happened not through gradual enlightenment, not through slow knowledge accumulation, but through catastrophe and revolution. Great Stink showed dirt brings concrete problems, here and now, not abstract. Parliament members suffocated. This was motivation. Germ theory gave tool. Understanding how to fight, not with prayers, not with aromas, but with soap, water, disinfection. Catastrophe plus science equals culture change. This pattern we'll examine further. Act 3. Mythology. Eternal patterns of forgetting. We've journeyed through reality and legend. Now comes the hardest question. The question that haunts every civilization. Why do we forget? We've traveled 3,000 years, from Egyptian priests shaving every 3 days to Victorian housewives washing floors with chlorine, from Vikings for whom Saturday was sacred washing day to Versailles, kings fearing water as poison. Wave rises, wave falls, rises again. Knowledge comes. Knowledge is forgotten, rediscovered again. Why? This isn't hygiene's unique story. This is universal human civilization pattern. We forget, constantly, systematically, what one generation knew firmly. Next questions. Third rejects completely. Romans built aqueducts bringing clean water to cities. Engineering marvels. Some work to this day, 2,000 years later. Roman thermae were social life centers, complex heating, water supply, sewage systems. Empire fell. Aqueducts crumbled. Thermae abandoned. Knowledge forgotten. Europe couldn't build anything comparable for 1,000 years. Why not preserve? Why not continue using? First reason, trauma. Rome didn't fall in one day. Decline lasted centuries. Barbarian invasions, economic collapse, epidemics, social chaos. City populations shrank by tens of times. Aqueducts require maintenance, need engineers, workers, materials, organization. In collapsed society, this doesn't exist. Aqueducts break, no one repairs. Thermae require fuel, enormous wood amounts for water heating. In prosperous empire, not problem. In devastated provinces, wood needed for cooking, home heating. Thermae, luxury which is refused. People begin washing less, not from ideology, from necessity. No infrastructure. A generation passes. Children don't remember thermae. For them, norm, washing at home, in basin, rarely. This isn't fall. This is just life. Another generation passes. Grandchildren hear thermae stories as legend. Long ago were huge baths where water flowed by itself. Fairy tales, not reality. Trauma erases memory. Through 2-3 generations, knowledge is lost. Society adapts to new conditions. New conditions become norm. Then comes second trauma. Plague. 14th century. 1/3 of Europe dies. People seek explanations. Why? Sin. God's anger. Stars misaligned. Air spoiled. Doctors propose miasma theory. Logical for that time. Disease in air. Bad air penetrates through pores. So need closing pores. So don't wash. Advice seems reasonable. People follow. Some survive. Not from washing refusal. Plague doesn't depend on water, but coincidence interpreted as cause-effect. I didn't wash and survived, tells friends. Friends also stop washing. Some survive, tell their friends. Chain reaction. Knowledge forms through experience. but experience can deceive. Coincidence accepted as pattern. False knowledge takes root. Trauma, forgetting catalyst. Society in crisis ready, discarding old. Grasping anything promising salvation, even if irrational. Second reason, authority. People don't check everything themselves. Impossible. Too much information. Trust authorities. Doctors, scientists, priests, rulers. If authority says, don't wash, majority will obey. Paracelsus was authority. Famous doctor, reformer. His treatises studied in all universities. He wrote, water harmful. Students read, memorized, repeated to their students. 100 years later, doctors across Europe quoted Paracelsus without checking, without doubting. Authority said, so truth. Church was authority. Priests preached dirt, humility, cleanliness, vanity. Parishioners listened, believed, imitated saints who didn't wash. Authority creates consensus. Consensus suppresses doubt. Who dares contradicting Paracelsus? Who dares saying saints erred? Semmelweis dared. Told doctors, wash hands, you're killing patients. Was crushed, ridiculed, destroyed. Not because wrong, because challenged consensus. Authorities don't tolerate challenges. Only when authority changes, new authorities appear contradicting old, can consensus break. Pasteur, Koch, Lister became new authorities. Their experiments convincing. Their results reproducible. Gradually, medical community accepted germ theory. Old authority yielded to new. Knowledge changed. But this took decades. Entire generation of doctors had to leave. New generation, raised on new ideas, took their place. Max Planck, 20th century physicist, said, new scientific truth triumphs not by convincing opponents, but because opponents gradually die out, while new generation grows familiar with it. Harsh, but true. Authority is inertial, slows progress, sometimes for centuries. Third reason, cultural identity. Cleanliness in Islamic Golden Age wasn't just habit. It was part of Muslim identity. Muslim washes. Christian doesn't. Boundary between us and them. When Crusaders came east, saw Muslims washing regularly. Reaction was ambiguous. Some adopted, but many rejected. This is their custom, Muslim. We're Christians. We shouldn't imitate infidels. Cleanliness became religious affiliation marker. Cleanliness refusal, way emphasizing, we're different. We're not like them. Same worked reverse. Muslims saw dirty Christians, despised. They're unclean, literally and spiritually. This proves their falseness. Cleanliness and dirt became division tools. Culture A defines itself through opposition to culture B. If B washes, A doesn't wash, to emphasize difference. Irrational? Yes, but effective for maintaining group identity. Cultural identity is stronger than rationality. People ready accepting inconveniences, even harm, to preserve group belonging sense. Fourth reason, economics. Knowledge not bringing immediate benefit is forgotten. Roman aqueducts were expensive to build and maintain. In prosperous empire, this paid off. Healthy population, high productivity, social stability. In devastated early medieval Europe, these benefits not obvious. Build aqueduct? Why? There's river, there are wells. Yes, water dirty, but cheap. Economic logic short-term. Long-term benefits, health, life expectancy, not calculated. Too abstract, too distant. Immediate costs versus distant benefits. Costs win. Therefore, aqueducts not restored. Therefore, plumbing not built. Economically unprofitable. Only when catastrophe makes inaction price obvious, great stink, cholera epidemics, does economics change. Suddenly sewage construction becomes profitable investment. Because alternative price, tens of thousands of deaths, City paralysis, too high. Catastrophe changes economic calculation, makes long-term benefits obvious, here and now. Fifth reason, system complexity. Roman water supply system was complex, required engineering, mathematics, organization knowledge, required institutions, engineering schools, repair services, administrative control. When empire fell, institutions collapsed. Knowledge was distributed among many specialists. One knew how to calculate aqueduct slope angle. Another, how to build arches. Third, how to organize maintenance. When system collapsed, specialists scattered, died. Knowledge wasn't recorded in accessible form, was in heads, in experience, in tradition. Tradition interrupted. Knowledge disappeared. To restore needed recreating entire system, not just building aqueduct, but training engineers, creating institutions, organizing financing. Too complex for scattered medieval feudal principalities. Complex knowledge is fragile, requires continuous transmission. Break of 1-2 generations, and all lost. Germ theory, simpler, can be explained in hour, shown in microscope, reproduced experiment, doesn't require huge infrastructure, therefore spread quickly. In 30-40 years conquered world, complexity, enemy of knowledge preservation. All these reasons work together. Create pattern. Trauma, old knowledge refusal, new false knowledge forms through wrong experience. Interpretation, authority consolidates cultural identity. Supports economics, doesn't stimulate changes. Complexity prevents restoration. Knowledge forgotten. Cycle can last centuries, until new trauma or new discovery breaks it. Hygiene history, example of this cycle, but not only one. Greeks knew Earth is round. Eratosthenes in 3rd century BC calculated Earth's diameter with few % accuracy. Knowledge spread. Educated Romans knew about Earth's sphericity. Middle Ages forgot. Not completely. Scholarly monks remembered. But popular conception slid to flat Earth. Took Renaissance and Age of Discovery for this knowledge to become again universally recognized. Why forgotten? Same reasons. Trauma of Rome's fall, loss of Greek texts, church authority interpreting Bible literally, absence of economic stimulus knowing Earth's shape, or medicine. Ancient Greeks practiced dissections, studied anatomy. Hippocrates, Galen wrote detailed treatises. Medieval church banned dissections. Body, Lord's temple, cannot defile. Anatomy forgotten. Doctors treated based on 1,000-year-old theories, without checking, without updating. Only in 16th century, Vesalius began doing dissections again. Discovered. Galen wrong in much. Described animal anatomy, not human. European medicine, 1,000 years treated by wrong schemes. Knowledge forgotten. Rediscovered again. Cycle repeats. Humanity doesn't accumulate knowledge linearly. Doesn't build tower, brick on brick, ever higher. Builds and destroys. Builds again. Sometimes higher. Sometimes same place. Sometimes lower. Progress isn't linear. Progress is spiral. 2 steps forward, step back. Sometimes 3 steps back. Then forward again. Why? Because we're human. Subject to fear, delusions, prejudices. Believe authorities. Defend identity. Think short-term. Forget complex. This isn't intelligence. Deficiency. This is human nature feature. Our psychology. Our sociality. Can we avoid cycle? Break pattern? Partially. Science helps. Scientific method, testing, reproducibility, authority skepticism protects from delusions. Not absolute, but best we have. Recording helps. Books, libraries, now internet. Knowledge recorded. Accessible. Can be restored. But recording doesn't guarantee use. Can have library and not read. Can have internet and believe myths. Education helps. teaching each generation not just facts, but method, how to check, how to doubt, how to think critically. But education isn't all-encompassing, and even educated people subject to prejudices. Is forgetting pattern inevitable? Possibly, but can slow, make cycles shorter, falls shallower. Hygiene history teaches knowledge is fragile, reason vulnerable, civilization, not wisdom guarantee. We traveled from Egyptian fanatic cleanliness through complete water refusal in Renaissance to Victorian hygiene obsession. We're not smarter than ancestors. We just stand on different spiral turn, have different tools, different knowledge, but same human nature and same forgetting possibility. But our forgetting creates new myths. Even our understanding of the past becomes mythology. These are myths within myths. There exists golden age myth, time when everything was right. People lived wisely, knew truth. Then knowledge lost. We live in decline. Try returning to lost perfection. This myth universal, present in every culture. Greeks spoke of Saturn's golden age. Christians of paradise before fall. 19th century romantics of medieval wisdom destroyed by enlightenment. In hygiene context, this myth also exists. Ancients knew correctly. Egyptians, Romans were clean. Then knowledge lost. Middle Ages, dark ages of dirt. Now we've restored, returned to ancients' wisdom. This is simplification. Beautiful, but inaccurate. Ancients didn't know correctly, knew their way, with errors, with delusions. Egyptians were obsessed with cleanliness, but their motivation was magical. Dirt, demon vessel, shaving, exorcism, weekly enemas, cleansing from mythical toxins. Worked, yes, partially. Cleanliness reduced infections, but for wrong reasons. Demons don't exist. Intestinal toxins don't cause most diseases. If Egyptian doctor learned about bacteria, he'd be shocked. Living creatures causing diseases? Absurd. Diseases caused by demons and Ma'at violation. Romans built great aqueducts, but also dumped sewage into rivers downstream, where other cities took water. Didn't understand water pollution concept. Thought river washes everything away. Water self-cleanses. Worked while population small. Stopped working when empire grew. Epidemics swept through empire. Killed millions. Vikings washed regularly, but believed light hair gives divine power. That beard combing. Magical ritual. That hot springs. Portals to God's worlds. Islam established cleanliness rules, but motivation religious. Cleanliness, religious obligation, not scientific understanding, worked, but on wrong model. Golden Age didn't exist when people knew truth about hygiene. Existed eras when practice accidentally coincided with benefit, but model was wrong. Model matters, because determines practice sustainability. If practice based on correct model, it survives even with circumstance changes. If on wrong, collapses at first test. Egyptian cleanliness was tied to religion. When religion faded under Greeks and Romans, cleanliness obsession faded too. Copts, Egyptian Christians, didn't preserve shaving and daily ablution tradition, because Christianity didn't require this. Islamic cleanliness survived because Islam lives. Religion preserves practice. But if tomorrow Islam disappears, will hammam tradition disappear? Possibly. Victorian cleanliness based on science, on germ theory. This model correct, verifiable, reproducible, therefore sustainable. Even if religion changes, culture changes, science remains, practice remains. But science also no guarantee. Scientific knowledge can be forgotten if society collapses, if education stops, if books burn. Knowledge sustainability depends on institutions' sustainability, preserving it. Another myth, progress inevitable. Humanity moves forward, from ignorance to knowledge, from primitiveness to perfection. Each generation smarter than previous. Hygiene history refutes. There was regress, real, deep, lasting centuries. From Roman thermae to Versailles stench. From daily ablutions to water fear. From scientific understanding to superstitions. Progress isn't inevitable. Progress is fragile, requires effort, requires institutions, requires knowledge transmission. Stop efforts, progress stops. Destroy institutions, progress reverses. This is frightening thought. We live in an era of unprecedented technological progress. Believe, this is irreversible, forever. But history says, no, everything can be lost. Rome was civilization peak, fell. Europe plunged into dark ages for 1,000 years. Can repeat? Yes. If sufficiently large catastrophe, if institutions collapse, if education stops, will we preserve knowledge about microbes, about hygiene, about medicine? Only if preserve books, schools, universities, laboratories, if teach next generation and next, continuously. Break of 2 to 3 generations and knowledge disappears. Legends remain. Once people knew about tiny creatures causing diseases. Legend, not knowledge. Third myth, correct balance exists. Golden mean between dirt and cleanliness obsession. Intuitively attractive idea. Egyptians too fanatic. Renaissance too dirty. Victorians too obsessed. Somewhere middle, correct. But where? Who will determine? Egyptians believed, correct, shaving completely every 3 days. Vikings, correct, washing every Saturday. Muslims, correct, ablution 5 times daily, before prayer. Victorians, correct, bath once weekly, hand washing many times daily. Who's right? Everyone. No one. Actually, correct depends on context, on climate, on water availability, on work type, on infection threat. In Egyptian heat, where sweat abundant and bacteria flourish, daily washing necessary. In Scandinavian cold, where less sweat, can less often. In hospital, where infection risk high, need constant disinfection. At home, ordinary cleanliness sufficient. Universal correct doesn't exist. Exists adaptation to circumstances. Golden mean myth dangerous. Supposes somewhere exists ideal balance. Find it. Everything will be perfect. Forever. But circumstances change. What's correct today may be incorrect tomorrow. Flexibility more important than fixed rules. Fourth myth. We, modern people, are free from past superstitions. We're rational, scientific, won't repeat mistakes, want to believe, but untrue. We're subject to same cognitive biases as ancestors. See patterns where none exist. Trust authorities uncritically. Defend group identity despite logic. Medieval people believed in miasmas. Theory seemed logical. Explained observations, supported by authorities, lasted centuries. We believe in theories seeming logical, explaining observations, supported by authorities. Some will prove true, some not. But we can't always distinguish. Medieval people were sure. They know truth. Water dangerous. This is obvious. This is proven. Doctors confirm. We're sure. We know truth about anything. This is obvious. This is proven. Scientists confirm. Sometimes right, sometimes not, but certainty same. 500 years hence, our descendants will look at us, wonder, how could they believe this? Obviously, it's untrue. As we look at Versailles, nobility fearing water, circle closes. So we arrive at the final question. After everything we've seen, everything we've learned, what remains with us? We've finished journey. From Egypt through Versailles to Victorian London, from divine cleanliness through sacred dirt to scientific hygiene. What did we learn? Humanity doesn't move straight, moves in circles, spirals, rises, falls, rises again. Sometimes higher than before, sometimes same level. Knowledge is fragile, can be lost in 1 to 2 generations, can be distorted beyond recognition, can be replaced with opposite. Trauma changes culture. Plague changed Europe's attitude toward water. Great stink changed again. Large catastrophe can rewrite civilization foundations. Authority shapes truth, not objective truth, but commonly accepted. What's believed, what's acted upon. Change authority, change truth. Cultural identity stronger than rationality. People choose practices not by effectiveness, by belonging. We do this because we're us. They do differently because they're them. Economics directs choice. Short-term benefits beat long-term. Visible benefits beat invisible. Catastrophe makes invisible visible. Changes calculation. Complexity, preservation enemy. Simple knowledge transmits easily. Complex requires institutions. Institutions fragile, collapse. Knowledge disappears. Science helps, but doesn't guarantee. Scientific method, best truth-seeking tool, but requires effort, education, skepticism, which aren't always there. Hygiene history, microcosm of humanity history. Everything that happened with washing happened with other knowledge, with medicine, astronomy, engineering, philosophy. We stand on giants' shoulders, but giants can fall. We'll fall with them. If don't hold tight, how to hold. Preserve institutions, schools, universities, libraries, laboratories. They store knowledge. Pass to next generation. Teach critical thinking, not just facts, but method. How to check, how to doubt, how to distinguish truth from delusion. Support science, not as dogma, as process. Constant investigation, testing, revision. Science doesn't give final answers, gives best available for now. Remember history. Don't idealize past. Don't despise it. Understand. Learn from mistakes. Don't repeat. Stay humble. We're not wiser than ancestors. Have more tools, more knowledge, but same nature, same weaknesses, same temptations, believing convenient lies instead of inconvenient truth. Hygiene history ended? No. Continues. We're part of it. Now we're in scientific hygiene phase. Understand microbes. Know how to protect. Wash regularly. Use soap, disinfection, vaccines. Is this final stage? History end? Unlikely. Circumstances will change. Perhaps new threats come. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria, new viruses, or climate change will force reconsidering water use. Perhaps new technologies appear. Nanomachines cleaning body inside. Gene engineering making us immune to infections. Hygiene practice will change again. Perhaps catastrophe comes. Institutions collapse. Knowledge forgotten. New cycle begins. Fall, then rise. New discovery of old truths. We don't know, can't predict, can only prepare. Preserve knowledge, teach next. Hope they'll be wiser, or at least not stupider. Hygiene history, mirror. Looking in it, see ourselves, our fears, our delusions, our wisdom, our stupidity. Egyptians feared hair. Medieval Europeans feared water. Victorians feared germs to paranoia. What do we fear? And how rational are these fears? Question remains open. Each generation must answer itself. We stand on Thames bank. 21st century, river clean, flows calmly, fish swim in it, children play by water, unafraid. 150 years ago, here was stinking sewer, killed by thousands, paralyzed city, frightened power, changed, built system, cleaned, saved. Can we again? If necessary? If new catastrophe demands new solutions? depends on us, on our institutions, on our knowledge, on our will. Hygiene history not finished. We write next chapter. Each day, each decision, each action. We're sons' children, as Egyptians believed about themselves. Viking descendants washing every Saturday. Islamic scientists' heirs who invented soap. Victorian continuers who built sewage. We carry their knowledge, their mistakes, their wisdom, their stupidity. What will we pass further? What will we become in descendants' eyes? Sages who preserved knowledge or fools who lost it? Don't know, can't know, can only try. Preserve, teach, check, doubt, correct, build, pass on. And hope spiral rises, that each turn higher than previous, that humanity learns, slowly, but learns. Water flows, clean, transparent, living. We can enter it, wash, cleanse, without fear, without superstitions, with understanding. This is gift of generations fighting ignorance, dying in dirt, building in stench, discovering microbes, saving millions. Their gift to us, our debt to them, preserve and pass further. Good night. Thank you for being with us on this journey. In Midnight Sleep Chronicles, we traveled 3,000 years, from divine cleanliness to sacred dirt and back to scientific hygiene. We saw how humanity forgets and remembers, falls and rises, errs and learns. We understood. We don't differ from ancestors, have same weaknesses, same possibilities. History continues. We're its part. Close your eyes, breathe calmly. May you dream of clean water, flowing river, living, giving life. May you dream of wisdom, passed generation to generation, preserved, multiplied. May you dream of humanity, persistent, not surrendering, rising after each fall, moving forward, in spiral, upward. Good night, until new journeys through time.